Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Cassia Park Road blocked following fatal police shooting. Falmouth gets long-awaited Jamaican experience sign. And later in sports, Calabar's coach blasts officiating system at recent Boys and Girls Championships. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Simpson. Here are the details. The St. Andrews Central Police Division is advising motorists that a section of Cassia Park Road has been cordoned off to facilitate the processing of a crime scene. It follows the fatal shooting of a man by the police during a targeted operation. The deceased has been identified as 39-year-old Corey Rowe, otherwise called Rasta. He is said to be the leader of the Elbow Gang in Central Village. Commanding officer for the St. Andrews Central Police Division, acting senior superintendent Mark Harris, says a police team went to a premises at Reese Road sometime after 4 when they were met with resistance, which led to an exchange of gunfire. TVJ News understands that Mr. Rowe attempted to escape in a car but was shot along Cassia Park Road. The vehicle crashed into the nearby Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, a subsequent search of his house led to the discovery of an illegal firearm and 150 rounds of ammunition. The police have not released the identity of a businessman who was shot and killed in Buff Bay last night. Residents reportedly heard explosions after 9 p.m. This brings to 6 the number of people killed in the parish since the start of the year. Residents have, however, expressed confidence in the police.
I won't say I'm going to give them 100, but I think they can do a little bit more, and sometimes instead of the people driving up and down, they can do a lot of foot patrol and come in unmarked vehicle and without uniform sometimes.
Meanwhile, due to crime, the once bustling town is dead.
Sometimes like 10 o'clock, the road is like a ghost town. Everybody just scared.
And this wasn't the normal thing?
No, they used to have like run robbing and so forth. People come out and enjoy themselves. They play dominoes and corners, and you don't really see that anymore because everybody just scared.
The police is this afternoon receiving commendations from the opposition for the 35% reduction in reported murders for the first quarter of the year. According to the JCF crime statistics, up to March 29, there were 181 homicides across the country compared to 277 in the similar period last year.
This performance demonstrates what the police can achieve with professional, targeted, and data-driven policing methods. Relying primarily on the powers given to them under the JCF Act, the police are now substantially more effective in containing murders than when the wasteful and unproductive states of emergency were being used as a serial and routine tool of policing.
And again, staunch criticisms over the use of states of emergency as a means to fight crime. Opposition spokesman on national security Peter Bunting noted that instead of the security measure leading to a reduction in murders, it did the opposite.
Necessary loss of life that occurred during the years when the JLP administration stubbornly refused to abandon the SOE policy. This resulted in 2,300 more murders occurring, a 25% increase than if they had even just maintained the average annual number of murders that the JLP administration inherited from the previous PNP administration.
The PNP is also expressing skepticism over media reports that National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang is now a supporter of social intervention programs. Mr. Bunting further pointed out that it was under the JLP flagship programs like Unite for Change, the CSJP and the Peace Management Initiative were discontinued, despite Dr. Chang's repeated criticism over their effectiveness. The opposition spokesman on national security says the stance taken by Dr. Chang is only an election ploy. Approximately 1,200 residents of Mason Hall, St. Mary now have access to piped water. This following the completion of the first phase of a new multi-million-dollar water supply system installed by the government. Shirley Pullen reports.
For years, residents of Mason Hall have expressed concerns about the lack of access to potable water. This mainly due to inadequate infrastructure in the community. A new multi-million-dollar water supply system has been a game changer. Phase 1 has been completed to the tune of $70 million. Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, says the project will be carried out in 3 phases.
Phase 2 will commence at the beginning of the financial year with a further $100 million extension of the existing pipelines and some work on your lift stations to ensure that more members of Mason Hall and indeed Kidland, the place that cuts me off. Yes, Kidland who cuts me off. Yes, we are ensuring that you are in phase 2 with the $102 million extension to the Mason Hall system that will benefit over 1,500 additional residents.
In addition to this, Mr. Samuda announced the installation of a water supply system for the Eden Park housing scheme in Western St. Mary that is nearing completion.
They built the houses, 100 plus homes, cut up land for others. And Prime Minister, you know, they hand over the houses and never lay no pipes. So I'm here to advise citizens of Eden Park that we have completed the procurement. The matter is to go to Cabinet. It will enter contract in April and work will start on a $128 million system for the citizens of Eden Park in April.
Plans are also in place for other communities. Mr. Samuda urged residents to remain patient as these projects are rolled out.
Over an 18-month period, your government, through rural water, would have invested over 1.3 billion Jamaican dollars into small rural water systems, into the extension of the utility footprint for persons who never had water before. And this is an extension of our total commitment. And what it says to me that you should give us the benefit of the doubt. You should give us the room to do the work that we have committed to doing.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the rural water supply system has spent approximately $600 million during this fiscal year. According to Board Chairman Omar Sweeney, these funds have been used to complete various water projects across Jamaica.
We also record an additional $800 million as work in progress. Please. I say please because these are difficult systems and these are systems that the staff and members of the rural water supply, working with the Member of Parliament, go through to ensure that we can have a day like today. Of mention are projects like the Mile Gully water supply system. We have the construction of the rainwater harvesting system right here at the Mason Hall Primary School.
The Ministry of Agriculture is reporting success in the government's Farm Road program with the latest completion of roads in St. Andrew West Rural.
Over 2,000 farmers in Mount Olive and the surrounding communities of St. Andrew West Rural can now breathe a sigh of relief. This following the opening of a farm road under the government's Farm Road program.
There used to be a time that we had a cap on farm roads, and while we do not have a super massive budget, what we have done is that we have said when we come into an area, we now have a team of engineers that are based at RAD. And if we're going to do the road, let us do the road properly. So it don't make sense to do the road and don't do drains. And in this area, you have to put in the correct infrastructure. So this project is 560 meters of road. It has come with drainage and it has cost us over $16 million.
So far, 5 farm roads have been repaired in St. Andrew. Agriculture Minister Ford Green said as part of its service to farmers, the government is ensuring that farm roads are prioritized.
Over $81 million. And that is apart from a focus that we now have on coffee roads, where we have earmarked in St. Andrew an additional $31 million to do 3 coffee roads to ensure that our coffee farmers have access.
Last year, over 80 farm roads were repaired across the island. Meanwhile, Minister Green says with more money in the budget, more farm road projects will be done this year.
The beauty about farm roads, it don't just help farmers. It helps the entire community. It uplifts the standard of living. These children are now growing in a different community. So we love this program, we will continue this program, and we know we will have your support as we continue on the journey.
Amoy Harriet, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break. Stay with us, more local stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. As part of efforts to boost tourism in Trelawney, the Ministry of Tourism, in partnership with the Tourism Product Development Company Limited, TPDCO, as well as the Trelawney Municipal Corporation, the long-awaited Jam Iconic Experience sign was unveiled.
On Friday, Falmouth's Jam Iconic Experience sign was unveiled by Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett. It's the third such sign erected by the Tourism Product Development Company Limited. It follows similar installations at the Montego Bay Airport Runabout in St. James and Negril in Westmoreland. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett said Falmouth holds a special place in Jamaica's history, recalling the town's prominence as one of the wealthiest on the island, boasting nearly 100 plantations that produced sugar and rum for export to England.
It is no surprise that Falmouth continues to be a town of great cultural and historical significance. This project honors that legacy while looking ahead to a future where our tourism industry is more inclusive, sustainable, and beneficial to all.
He highlighted that the sign gives Falmouth a modern look.
When we talk about tourism, we're talking about more than just visitors. We're talking about a shared experience where locals and tourists can come together, interact, and celebrate the very essence of Jamaica.
And following the unveiling of the sign, an elated Mayor of Falmouth, Colin Gager.
It is also close to an attraction that has a name and made a name long ago for itself when James Bond movie was filmed at the Swamp Safari. And of course, there are alligators there now as we speak, and various species of birds where tourists do go to visit. So it is right behind at the back door. So the whole stretch of Foreshore Road is really taking off.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Carib Cement generated $27.9 billion in revenue, reflecting a 2.3% growth from 2023. This despite disruptions from Hurricane Beryl and adverse weather that affected cement production and sales in the latter half of the year. Gross profit margin rose slightly to 41.5% from 40.8% in 2023. Operating earnings increased by 4%, reaching $7.6 billion, and earnings before tax grew by 8%, totaling $7.8 billion. The rise was partly due to a $0.3 billion increase in interest income from efficient cash management. Net income reached $6 billion, up $0.4 billion from the previous year, with earnings per share rising to $6.99 billion. Cash flow was strong with a $4.5 billion increase in cash reserves after $1.7 billion in dividends and $5.9 billion in capital projects. Overseas, TikTok is almost out of time to find a buyer again. The app's future is uncertain as a potential ban in the United States could be just days away. TikTok's parent company ByteDance is on the hook to sell the app's US operations by Saturday, April 5th, or face a ban in the United States. This after President Donald Trump extended the deadline in January. US lawmakers have long been concerned that TikTok poses a national security risk. For the Business Minute, I'm Krista Campbell.
Time now for the top stories from around the world.
In the region, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago Stuart Young says there are no concerns over the Twin Islands' relationship with Venezuela. However, Prime Minister Young says the deal with Venezuela for the extraction and sale of natural gas from the Dragon gas field in the South American country is in jeopardy. This as the U.S. has slapped several sanctions on the Maduro administration, which has implications for countries that have bilateral agreements with Venezuela. On the international scene, Europe says it has a strong plan for striking back at the United States in response to Donald Trump's tariff hikes if necessary. It comes on the eve of a long-anticipated announcement of massive import levies by the U.S. president. For weeks, Trump has promoted April 2 as Liberation Day in America, when a number of hefty tariffs will be unveiled to implement his administration's radical economic agenda. The United States has already announced a sharp increase in tariffs on all imports of steel, aluminum, and cars. And more than 400 people have been rescued in Myanmar's former royal capital, Mandalay, since the powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck the region on Friday, according to fire officials. The Myanmar Fire Service Department said its rescue teams worked with the teams from China, Russia, and India deployed to the Mandalay area following the quake. Since Friday, a total of 403 people have been rescued alive, and 259 bodies have been recovered from the region. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Nakinsky Robinson.
And we head to another break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.